This is an illustration of the Republic of China's 11-line, which was published in 1947. Negotiations on politics took place, and by the time communist personnel occupied mainland China, it had been modified into the 9-line. The chart has been a point of contention ever since. Beijing asserts ownership of the demarcation line, which spans almost the entire South China Sea and overlaps with the territorial claims of the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, and Vietnam. However, this isn't just a local issue. The US Navy says it wants to preserve the freedom of navigation and frequently patrols the region. The impasse was that China doesn't believe a word of it and has been constructing its military facilities nearby for years. In August 2022, Nancy Pelosi, who was then the Speaker of the House, went to Taiwan. Since then, China has escalated its aggressive behavior. Its fighter planes have flown provocatively, its warships have been seen sailing close to American bases, and most recently, Chinese surveillance balloons have been spotted entering American airspace. Legislators are concerned on all sides, and communication is currently on life support. So much so that in a leaked document, General Michael Minhen claims that a full-scale war between the United States and China may break out as early as 2025. What is happening then, since it appears that China and America are headed towards war without even realizing it? Because being weak is the alternative, a state occasionally needs to expose its fangs and let everyone know that it is a threat. Defense spending is more than just numbers, it demonstrates political commitment. Military might, whether through parades, exercise, or arms deals, is the most prevalent way to demonstrate power. $230 billion are projected to be China's military budget for 2023. Nevertheless, it is eclipsed by the US economy, which is worth $816 billion. Even though the numbers don't match up, that is a sizable gap. China's official funding does not include its parliamentary militias, Coast Guard research and development projects, space program, or any other associated operations. When accounted for rates of exchange, purchasing power, and labor expenses, China's military budget equals 87% of the Pentagon's budgetary constraints. That is 2017 estimate. For 2023, it is expected to be higher. Abruptly, the gap between America and China does not appear to be as large as originally thought. Furthermore, while the United States spends its defense resources all over the world, China concentrates its assets mainly in the immediate vicinity. As a result, Beijing receives a lot better value for its cash. These are the underlying unspoken reasons that have many US military officials concerned. What precisely does China intend to do with its increased military might? That much is less of a surprise. It aims to control the space up to the first island chain by 2030. The first island line stretches from Indonesia to the Philippines and Japan. Taiwan is situated in the middle, sticking out like a sore thumb. If required, Beijing will use force to retake control of its quote province. For that purpose, China has acquired advanced submarines, aircraft carriers, fifth-generation jets, and other military equipment. War is now closer than it has been in many years due to China equipping itself at an unprecedented rate. US officials claim that Beijing is looking for its goals with definite dates in mind, one of which is 2024, a year that will see elections in both the United States and Taiwan. Elections are expected to be divisive and disruptive, particularly in America. Additionally, according to Taiwanese officials, the Chinese military will have amassed sufficient air and firepower by 2024 to launch the attack. Accordingly, 2025 is the perfect year for Beijing to initiate an offensive strategy. It is a bold prediction to state that it is still armed alive in 2 years. Although there are still many unanswered questions, one thing is reasonably certain. If America and China got into a fight within the next 10 years, neither side would directly attack the other's mainland. China is too large, both in terms of area and people, for a land conflict, and the US is too far away for a significant attack. The South China Sea, East China Sea, and Taiwan would be the current situation much sooner. The main threat to Beijing, its ring of islands and archipelagos that separates its continent's mainland from the seas, serves as its Achilles heel. Narrow entrances to the Indian and Pacific Oceans can be found in the South China Sea. Luzon, the Mindanao, Borneo, the frame of the chain is formed by Java and Sumatra, with a variety of islands strewn throughout the void. These areas are all capable of housing and concealing either friendly or hostile air and missile troops. In the East China Sea, the islands from Japan to Ryukyu to Taiwan stretch out into the water like centuries-old monuments. As soon as Chinese warships leave their ports, they will be obvious to Japanese and Taiwanese surveillance and will be well within sight of air and missile defense systems. You can see what's at risk by looking at the map. Despite being the largest exporter of products globally and a trading power, China does not have unhindered access to the oceans. The first island chain is where China projects its influence, leaving its enormous economic empire at the mercy of the world's most powerful naval force. Business as normal in Beijing is not a viable strategy. With reasonable effort, US carrier battle groups can seal the choke points between the island and the archipelagos. Naval blockades are a threat to Malacca, Sunda, Lombok, Karimata, Makassar, Mindoro, and Luzon. If this occurs particularly in the Malacca Strait, it will damage China's economy, threatening the Communist Party's hold on power. If Washington and Beijing clash within the next decade, both will seek to control the island archipelagos that comprise the first island chain. The mission of the US Navy in the South China Sea would be to seal the choke points and keep them closed. In the foreseeable future, the PLA Navy has no hope against the US Navy. Therefore, the PLA Navy would prefer to take some of the nearby islands and hang on for a while so that air, land, and anti-ship missile systems could be installed there rather than engage the American fleets head-on. Once the new weapons are in position, Chinese forces could then drive American fleets away from the choke points they have identified. It is for this reason that China has made such significant investments in the man-made islands in the South China Sea, as doing so would enable it to create secure access to the world's oceans. 3 of Beijing's 7 artificial islands, Mischief Reef, Sabaru Reef, and Fairy Cross, have been completely militarized as of the time of this writing. They act as unsinkable aircraft carriers and are each outfitted with fighter planes, anti-ship and anti-aircraft missile systems, laser jamming gear, and other armaments. In order to supplement its firepower, because the PLA Navy is unable to immediately open the South China Sea choke points, it can use air and missile systems located on the man-made islands. Meanwhile, in the East China Sea, the tactical scenario is significantly distant but no less critical. The Pacific Navy forces were divided in two by Taiwan and the Okinawa Islands. In a war, China's immediate objective would be to safeguard the Taiwan Strait so that its fleets can merge and send additional support as required. Taking Taiwan, or at the very least incapacitating its armed forces, would solve China's divided naval forces. More significantly, taking control of Taiwan would give China access to the world's oceans by allowing it to breach the first island chain. The US Navy would therefore be kept away from the choke points in the first island chain, including Taiwan, in a war between China and America by the former, who would employ anti-ship, air, and land-based weapon systems. That strategy seems workable. The issue is that American air and missile interception can affect Chinese weapons. Therefore, no matter how you look at it, China is defenseless against the US for at least the next 10 years. Given its deficit from a distance, it makes sense that Beijing would refrain from starting a fight. Fifth-generation jets and hypersonic missiles could alter the equation starting in 2030, which is when things start to get perilous. For what it's worth, the F-35 is a better weapon and American pilots are more skilled than their Chinese peers. China has the J-20 Mighty Dragon, while the United States has the F-35 Lightning II. Additionally, America has a wide range of regional friends such as Japan, South Korea, Australia, Thailand, Taiwan, and the Philippines. On the other hand, despite being thought to be ahead in hypersonic weaponry, China is improving and growing its armored forces more swiftly than any other nation, which includes commissioning aircraft carriers. If development continues at its present pace, China is anticipated to have transformed its military into a top-tier fighting force comparable to the United States by 2050. By that time, the number of aircraft carriers and the overall tonnage of ships in the Chinese Navy and the US Navy will be virtually equal. Overall, it can be said that there is a low likelihood of an American-Chinese conflict in the coming 10 years. but the sky is looking rather stormy as thunderstorms are assembling in the faraway horizon. That's all for today, folks. Take care of yourself. Give us your thoughts on this in the comment section. And if you appreciate our content, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Share this video with your family and friends. We will meet soon in a new video. Thank you. Jai Hind.